Now, someone's telling porcupines you can't both be right. It's either you or it's them. It's probably them. Ahoy boys and girls, and welcome back once again to I Like Watches. That's right, someone is not being completely honest, and in an effort to find out who that is, I've bought the watch so I can take a look for myself. Now, earlier this year, Citizen did contact me, inviting me to review the Citizen Tsuyosa, I think it's pronounced. They offered me a free watch. I looked at the specifications, I looked at the price, and then decided, no, I don't think I'm bothered about reviewing that, so I didn't bother reviewing it. But I've now seen lots and lots of reviews of this watch. Some of them seem to be pretty accurate, but some of them not so much. I've got some quotes for you. Are you ready for this? The Citizen Tsuyosa is the new king. King of what? One of the most appealing budget watches. Budget? It's £300. If you translate that to dollars, that's $400. People's favourite watch of 2023. What people? It's a Rolex killer, really? It's a PRX killer. Now, as you can imagine, some of these comments, videos and video titles were a little bit confusing to me because, well, I've seen the watch, I know the specifications, and I know how much Citizen wants for this watch. So I made a community post on I Like Watches asking my viewers for their opinions on this watch, and surprisingly, or maybe not so surprisingly, they didn't seem to tie in with what some reviewers thought. Let me read a few of their comments out. I was disappointed. The finishing was very poor. Thickness makes it unwieldy. I bought it and sent it straight back. I sent mine back. Nasty cheap bracelet. Looks like a Moore watch. Very meh. So who's lying? You, the viewers, or perhaps a few of these reviewers? Let's find out. Right, while I'm unboxing this watch, I want to let you guys know, and this is just my first impressions. I know that they may change over time if I was to keep hold of this watch and wear it for a long period of time. Of course, my opinions might change, but I quite often like to give my first impressions because I think generally they are your truest and most honest opinions. So that is why this is an unboxing and sort of first impressions video. I bought this watch as well. I didn't go back to Citizen and go, I've changed my mind. I'd like a free watch, please. Yeah, I bought this watch with my own cashola. And of course, I know when it comes to high street brands like Citizen and Seiko, you're not going to see the same value for money that you will see with micro brands and AliExpress brands. So I am going to take that into consideration. And I also want to reinforce that I did see lots of really good reviews of this watch. Reviews where I thought the reviewers were very, very fair and honest. And there were some comments on my community post from viewers praising this watch. They weren't going over the top like some reviewers were, but they were quite complimentary, shall we say. So, yeah, I just wanted to see for myself. Right, so my first impressions, well, they're actually pretty good. Yeah, better than I thought, actually. I'm quite surprised at how nice the bracelet is. Given some of the comments that I saw weren't at all complimentary to the bracelet. I don't know if they've upgraded the bracelet, but there feels to be quite a lot of weight in that bracelet. They look to be solid links, not a massive amount of jangle, a little bit, but all the links are still in it still. I'm sure once I've taken some links out, obviously that will improve the amount of jangle there appears to be. The end links, the integrated end links look to be solid. Of course, it's push pins. They're going to be split pins, aren't they? But the polishing and the brushing on the bracelet actually seems okay. So I'm really quite surprised, pleasantly surprised at the quality of the bracelet. The clasp, I mean, I knew I wasn't going to like it. Why would you polish this thing? Just polishing a turd, aren't you? Just don't spend money on polishing it. Just put in a better clasp. And the outer shell's all right. You see these outer shells on clasps with milled inner elements, these sort of pressed outer shells, 3 micro adjustments, that's all right. These links aren't particularly long, so I think that's enough. So I don't mind how the clasp looks when it's like this, but obviously when you open it up, you can see the cheapness of it. Yeah, the case finishing is better than I thought it was going to be as well. Does it hack? I've seen reviews where reviewers have said it doesn't hack, and some have said it does. Some say it doesn't, some say it does. I think it should hack. I don't think this is a non-hacking movement. Yeah, it is hacking, look. So the second hand is stopping, and you can access that crown fairly easily from underneath to hand wind it. Look, that doesn't feel too bad. I mean, there's not a massive amount of crown poking out from the case, but I can access the crown okay. I'm noticing though the Cyclops doesn't appear to be very well located. The date window, when I hold the watch, you're not going to see this, I'm holding it square to my face. The date window appears in the bottom right hand corner, right in the bottom right hand corner of the magnifier. I don't like the color of the movement. Obviously it has that unidirectional rotating rotor, which you get on the 9000 series movements. I think they're generally a little bit quieter on the 9000 series movements. So you're not going to hear them as much. Right, I'm going to test all 3 pieces of crystal. 3, you say? There is 3. Well, that's sapphire. Excellent. What about the magnifier? Sapphire as well. That is really, really good news because I have seen crystals in the past, sapphire crystals with mineral magnifiers on them. Of course, it's not going to be a sapphire sandwich. Right, I've zoomed in so we can have a good look at this dial to see if there are any specks or anything like that. Dust and debris on the dial under the crystal. I'm not seeing any like this, which is really, really good news. The hands, decent length to those hands. Look, yeah, probably could be a little bit longer, but they don't look too short. The applied indices look nice. I'm not sure if the Lume is filled into hollow applied indices. I will do the Lume test at the end of this video to see how good the Lume is. But upon closer inspection, this looks all right, doesn't it? Now I'm going to do something I've never done before. Live commentary on a watch on my Timegrapher. And yeah, this one's running, well, not brilliantly. The accuracy isn't fantastic, but of course that's only in one position. These watches, when they're on your wrists, are going to perform quite differently. Decent amplitude, okay beat error. Yeah, I mean, that's all right, isn't it? Right, I've just finished filming the Lume Degradation clip, and I think the Lume is as strong as I was expecting it to be. This isn't a dive watch, so I'm not expecting record-breaking Lume, and it faded quicker than average, and I think I was expecting it to be weaker than average. The hands, not particularly good, perhaps a touch weaker than the applied indices. So yeah, a little bit disappointing, but it's how I expected it to be, I think. Right, I've now added my macro lens to my recording device, which is an iPhone, so that I can have a look at the steel finishing a little bit more closely. Instead of taking video clips of the watch in certain positions, I just thought I'd have a look live and pass comment, and the polishing actually seems again better than I was expecting. Look at the reflections of the phone on the side of the case there. Look, you can see the actual end of the phone is really flat. There doesn't seem to be any streaking, so that is really nice polishing actually for this price point, and it seems to be the same on the bezel. Look, the lights reflecting have very straight sides. So yeah, the polishing looks good. The transitions between the polishing and the brushing seems okay. Not the most crisp. I mean, that tiny little facet there doesn't seem to be particularly smooth, does it? But it actually looks pretty good. And the bracelet, let's have a look at the polishing on the center links. Well, let's do this top one. Oh, a little bit of streaking. You can see that white line there is a little bit bumpy, look, but it's not bad at all. I've seen much worse than that. Look at that top surface there on the case. That is nicely brushed, and that corner looks quite crisp. So I think it is holding up very nicely under macro, isn't it? Even the dial, look at that. The applied indices look nice and bright. Yeah, I am actually quite surprised. I'm pleasantly surprised, I should say. Right, before I wrap it up, there's a couple of things I want to mention. The stuttering seconds hand. It's not too bad on this watch, actually. I've watched it for quite some time. Yes, when you bang the watch, the second hand does pause for a moment or two, but it's not too noticeable. It does seem to jump a little bit when it's stationary as well, but it's not the worst I've ever seen. I suspect some watches are worse than others. What about the way it looks? I actually quite like the way it looks. I don't mind this bracelet on it at all. I think it's a good looking watch. I don't think I chose the best dial color. I do like white dialed watches, but yeah, I mean, it is a very nice looking watch, and it's actually very comfortable. It's not sitting too high on my wrist. Yeah, I mean, there isn't a lot to dislike about this watch. So, have people been overselling, over exaggerating, basically talking crap about this watch? To some degree, a little bit, I think. Some reviewers have perhaps been a little bit enthusiastic. I mean, let's go back to the comments. The Citizen Tsuyosa is the new king. Yeah, I don't think so. One of the most appealing budget watches. Budget watches, I still don't think it's a budget watch. And is it the most appealing watch for £300? Absolutely not. People's favourite watch of 2023. Well, I think you guys proved that is not the case. It's definitely not a Rolex or a PRX killer. So, yeah, I think some reviewers have perhaps been a little bit enthusiastic when talking about this watch, but that does happen, unfortunately. I'm sure some of you have thought I've done a similar thing in the past with different watches. But yeah, all I can tell you is, on this occasion, I don't think anybody has been really lying too much. I don't think you guys have got it that wrong. I don't think some reviewers have got it that wrong. Yeah, it's better than I thought it was going to be, but it's not as good as some people seem to think it is.